Hey VCers, it's Matt, and just had an idea. A question popped into my head out of the blue this morning, so I thought I'd make a response video for it, where I ask the question and you all respond. Anyway, give you a quick example. Back in the early 80, 81, 82 period, bought records and I read all the music magazines, Rolling Stone, which was crappy even back then, not as bad as it is now, but Cream, which was really funny and cool, and Trouser Press, which was a great magazine that's long gone now, sadly. Anyway, Trouser Press saw a couple of mentions, reviews, or just mentions in the news sections about a band named U2. Had no idea what they sounded like because they didn't play them on the radio. Just thought the name was kind of odd. I thought of U2 spy planes from back in the Kennedy days and all that, but didn't really have any desire to go out and buy their first two albums, October and Boy, I think was the first album. But 1983, radio station, a couple of the radio stations before start playing song New Year's Day off their new album War. Thought, it's not a bad song, it's pretty good. Even today, I think it's an all right song, not too bad. But I kind of liked it when it was new. And then they started playing this other song called Sunday Bloody Sunday. I thought that's a pretty good song too. So I went out and bought the album War. Bought the new album War at the time and brought it home. I thought those two songs were okay. The rest of the album was not as good and actually not all that great. Saw the band in concert at a small arena in Dallas right around that time. This was right when they were beginning to break big but weren't big yet. Long story short, I quickly realized that U2 just wasn't a band for me. I really didn't like them. I still like those two songs okay, but I think they're otherwise pretty awful band, especially the lead singer. That's neither here nor there. The point is, I had bought that copy of Boy, and I don't think I've played the thing since probably 1984 at the latest. Still sitting in my record collection, collecting dust. Move forward a couple of years, 1986, new Rolling Stones album comes out, Under Cover of the Night. That's not the one, that's the one before that. This the one that came out in 86 is the one where they're wearing the pastel pink and red and blue Miami Vice clothes. Whatever, I can't remember the name of it, really doesn't matter. But at that point in time, the Rolling Stones still mattered a little bit, and the release of a new Rolling Stones album was still cause for excitement and celebration. Ran out and bought it first week, day, whatever, right when it came out there. Got it home, played it, I don't know, handful of times, 5 or 6 times. Realized pretty quickly that this is a steaming pile of crap, this album. And I played it probably another handful of times over the next weeks or couple of months. And at that point, I decided, why bother with this? This once great band is, not worth the bother now. As they're spent as a creative force, I put the album in my rack of records, and it's sat there basically since 1986 unplayed. So that brings me to the question, which is to go peruse your collection of records, 45s, CDs, 8 tracks, cassettes, whatever form you collect your music in, and try to determine to the best of your recollection what album or CD or whatever in your collection is the one that you have not played in the longest time. So you got 50 records in your collection, and this one you haven't played in 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever years. This is the one that you haven't played for the one that has been the longest ago that you played out of your collection. So it's pretty simple. And then come on and make your response and show the record, and maybe talk about why you haven't played it for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and maybe talk about if you have any intention of playing it again anytime soon or ever. So the only thing on that I would say as far as rules is this has to be has to be. This should be a record that you at one point in time did play, whether you only played it once and didn't like it and never played it again, or you played it a few times or a bunch of times. Maybe you liked it, maybe you didn't, but at some point, for whatever reason, you just put it on the shelf and haven't been in the mood to hear it in the past 5, 10, whatever years. Uh, so it should be a record that you actually did play, as opposed to a record that you never played. And being collectors, I know I have, and a lot of us have in our collections, those records that we bought and never played. A lot of them we never even opened and never intended to do so or intended to do so. Collectible records, say that wouldn't really count. Something that you bought that was a limited edition record store day, or you ran across a mint sealed first pressing of Meet the Beatles or something, and you picked it up and don't ever intend to open it or play it. So something like that I wouldn't count as the the record you played the longest ago. Or a record, if somebody gave you something for Christmas or your birthday because they know you like music and collecting records, but they bought something that's some band that you could care less about, so you thanked them for the present and set it on the shelf and never played it and don't intend to play it. I mean, if you're a, I don't know, 60s music or a punk rock music fan and somebody gave you a copy of John Denver's greatest hits 10 years ago, and you care less about John Denver, you don't ever intend to play the thing, but since it was a gift, you didn't really want to throw it away, so you just stuck it on the shelf. Uh, and I've got some other records like that I've never played. Back in the 70s and 80s, they did reissue after reissue of like Yardbirds and Jimi Hendrix albums, and those Beatle albums that just reissued, the Tony Sheridan sessions or the Live at the Hamburg Star Club sessions, where I already had that somewhere else, but I just bought those albums because they had different covers, and usually because they were cheap, like $2 or something in the bargain price, and never played them. So it should be an album, and you don't have to do just one album, but don't do more than, say, 3 or 4. But the album or albums that it's been the longest since you played them. So figured if I'm going to do the challenge for everyone else, I should answer the question. So when I thought about this morning, for whatever reason, totally out of the blue, I looked through my record collection and I picked out 2 albums. And so here we go. Isn't that just the most wonderful album cover art you've ever seen in your life? That's got to be tops in the best album cover artwork. So what these 2 things are, I bought these both around the time they came out. They both came out in 1979. I would have been 15 or 16, depending on what time of the year they came out. Uh, this one I definitely know I bought in 1979. This one might have been 79. It might have been early 80. This was one of those, and Bobby Z and Joe, you guys will remember this, back in the days when they used to advertise albums on TV all the time, Ronco and K-tel and Time Life and those all the greatest hits on one disc and not available in stores. And they still do that some, but I don't think as much as they used to. So this was Crossroads, a Warner Brothers release, Warner Brothers Special Products release, so I guess it's a special album. And what it is just some of the greatest one-hit wonder bands of the 60s on 2 albums, and exciting stuff. There's the Lakeshore Music presents Crossroads on Warner Brothers Special Products. Pretty exciting stuff. So what you got on here is some songs I really like and some songs I was never that crazy about, but Give Me Some Lovin' by Spencer Davis, Time of the Season by the Zombies, Pretty Ballerina, Left Bank, Tired of Waiting by the Kinks, which is actually, I really hadn't even started buying Kinks records at the time I got this. Didn't get into the Kinks big time till 1980. Time Won't Let Me, The Outsiders, Too Much to Dream Last Night, and so forth and so on. It's also got some songs that I liked at the time, like Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf, which I would be happy never to hear again in my life. And it's got some songs that I never really cared about, even back then. Evil Ways by Santana. Was never big on Santana. Na Na Na, Hey Hey, Kiss 'Em Goodbye by Steam. I always thought that was a stupid song. Sock It To Me Baby by Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels. That's a great song. But I played this album. I liked it when I got it. I played it, I don't know, a ton of times, but I remember playing it a good number of times. But I really haven't played it much since, and I'll get to that in a second. Let me show you this other album real quick. It's California Bound, and this was, I bought this at a record store at Seminary South, an old shopping mall in Fort Worth, which is still around, but it's under a different name. It's no longer called Seminary South, not that y'all care. I guess it's a MCA subsidiary because it's on the world famous label Star Pax, which we all know and love. And I think this thing was $1.99, $2. So you can see the track listing there. A lot of Beach Boys, but it's all sort of beach and surf songs, one-hit wonder things. I actually bought this for, well, I mean, most of the songs on here I like, but I wanted a copy of Surfing Bird by the Trashmen, which is a fun song, kind of a stupid song, but fun enough. A bit annoying, bit fun. Same thing. And actually, looking at the track listing, there's nothing bad on here except for the song Sunny, which I never liked, even when I was a little kid. But so I bought both of these albums in 79 and or maybe early 1980 for this one. And I remember playing this one probably more than this one, but I did play this one several times, I remember. But for whatever reason, I don't think I played either one of these albums since probably 1982 at the latest. This one because there's several songs on here that I didn't much care for back then. And there's several of them that I've grown tired of, like Born to Be Wild. And there's others that I like. I got into the Kinks, so I got all their albums. I've got some albums by some of these other people on here that I got subsequent to getting this record. But I think the oldies station in Fort Worth that was around at the time, that's still around actually, they kind of drove a lot of these songs into the ground over the years because it's one of those terrible oldie stations that only plays like 40 songs just on rotation over and over and over and over. So if you were to turn that station on back in the 80s or the 90s or even today and listen to it all day, you'd probably hear Born to Be Wild, 5 to 10 times a day. And so, you know, I had some of the other albums, and there's some good stuff on here, but I don't know, I just didn't really, haven't played it since 82, as far as I remember, 81, 82 at the latest. And the flow of this album isn't very good. You got Give Me Some Lovin' on the first side of the first album, which is great. But then you got Tighter and Tighter, which is okay. Cry Like a Baby, which is so-so. Bend Me, Shape Me, it's fair. The Kiss 'Em Goodbye, which is terrible. Side B, you got Time of the Season, Zombies, good song. San Francisco Nights is not a bad song. Santana, don't like that. Let's Live for Today, Grassroots. People Gotta Be Free, so-so. So, I mean, you got, for me anyway, there's a lot of songs that I like, but then you got to sit through 2 or 3 songs that aren't that great before you get to another good one. Anyway, that's my answer. So, what's yours?